We often hear that classical music is the foundation for playing any Western music style. And yes, that's true. But today I'd like to flip that idea a bit. There are some skills that pop musicians typically develop and that we as classical musicians often overlook, even though they can make a huge difference in how we practice, memorize, and perform music. I am Felipe Scaluzzi, and in this video I'm going to show you 3 essential things a classical musician should learn from a pop musician. I believe these insights really can open up new ways of thinking about your music. Number 1, looking at the harmony. This first thing is so simple but powerful. Learning to see the harmony behind the piece you're playing. Pop musicians usually learn songs based on their chords. They see chords as the backbone of the music and the melody as something that moves around them, which is of course true. That makes much easier to memorize and understand the music because thinking in chords means you're grouping many notes under one idea, and usually there are fewer chords than melodic notes. In a passage like this, for a classical musician, usually this is like, okay, I have F sharp, C sharp, A natural, F sharp. Okay, I have a certain arpeggio here, and then I play with F, and now all of a sudden my A is sharp, so I have A sharp, and now I go to B here on the bass with E, which is kind of weird, but okay. And then now C with C. And then I have this arpeggio here, which kind of seems to step the 5th of this chord. And I finish with the B. And back to F sharp there. But look, if you learn to see this as F sharp minor, which is the 1st degree here, and then all of a sudden I have F sharp major with minor 7, which is like a dominant and asks for a first degree chord, which from F it's going to be the B, and then I go to B. That's he gives me that, and then all of a sudden I go one step up to C sharp major with 7, which is another dominant that asks for its 1st degree. Dominant is the 5th degree of something, so this is the 5th degree or of F sharp. So back to F sharp. So it's like, and then on top of it, I could play almost anything that would match, but of course I have melodies, Chopin beautiful melody, but if I see this structure, it's going to change my memorization, my learning process completely. In classical music, chords aren't always spelled out so clearly. The harmony is more subtle, often spread across voices, often with broken chords. So we sometimes forget to ask ourselves, what harmony am I in right now? But that question is key. When a classical musician understands the harmonic path of a piece, everything starts to make more sense. Phrasing, structure, memory. It's like looking at a map from above instead of just watching the road through your windshield. Before we move on, while understanding harmony is really important, so is building your technique. Many pianists feel lost when it comes to practicing technical exercises. They've never had a clear method. That's why I created the step-by-step guide to technical control at the piano. It gives you clarity, direction, and of course results. Click the card or the link in the description to check it out. Skill number 2, learning to improvise. Until around the mid-19th century, classical musicians learned music in a way that was actually quite close to how jazz musicians learn today. They studied patterns, harmonic sequences, and phrase types so that they could improvise using those models. Improvisation wasn't some magical inspiration. It was the fast and fluent combination of known ideas, like those little models, patterns, like some schemes. And that's the key. Improvising teaches you how composers think. Actually, the music you're playing becomes for you like your mother language. You start to see how music is built. You understand the logic behind phrases. You feel more at home with the piece, and even you feel free to play with certain little changes when it makes musical sense. Musicians would be given a line, a bass line, like something like this. And it goes on. And then you would put a left hand on top of it, playing with it a little bit, improvising, something like this, in octaves, in thirds, a little accompaniment. So you would improvise, you would create a right hand that goes together with the given left hand. Also, when the left hand is just calmer, you would put some lines to match those chords, those basses. Not to mention, back in the day, piano concertos often had a moment called cadenza, where the soloist would improvise something based on the themes of the piece. That tradition is basically lost, and honestly, it's a shame. The third skill is always to feel the rhythmic pulse. In pop music, I know there's almost always percussion, a drum or beat marking time, and that makes it obvious when something is off. But more than that, pop musicians know that if the rhythm isn't clear, the whole song falls apart, the groove disappears. In classical music, we don't always have that beat in the background. The rhythm can be more flexible, but listen, flexible doesn't mean that we should ignore the pulse. On the contrary, the pulse needs to be felt all the time, even when we stretch or shape it. It can be flexible but clear. Back to our Chopin Nocturne. The introduction goes like this. And then the melody. So this, especially here in the introduction, the sense of pulse could be lost very easily. So I would have, if I really count the beats here, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, but it could be easily played like this. I'm sure that if you know some piano beginners or students, you heard some interpretations like this. So if you lose the sense of beat, even if you want flexibility, you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you can have clarity, you can have a structure that you can feel physically the beat, the rhythm, you can almost dance to it. but you cannot be in such a vague, like you're like completely walking on air and not feeling a solid ground under you. You must feel this ground. Sometimes we play a classical piece with such a vague sense of rhythm that listeners feel lost and they blame themselves. They think that they don't understand anything that's going on. They just think, oh, well, I guess I just don't get classical music. But often the problem isn't the listener, it's that the rhythm wasn't clearly communicated. The rhythm is something that must be felt physically. Rhythmic freedom is beautiful, but freedom only works when there's a solid base, and that base is the sense of pulse. If any of these points revealed a gap in your musical training, you're not alone, don't worry. These are things that aren't always emphasized in classical education, but they make a huge difference. And there's one more topic that affects nearly every musician, especially musical students, which is stage fright. If that's something you struggle with, I made a whole video about it. You can find it here, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments.